December 1890, in the -20 degrees Celsius grip of a South Dakota winter, the Lakota dance for hope, their ghost dance songs rising through the snow. But at Wounded Knee Creek, 500 rifles await, ready to turn prayers into screams. A hidden letter and a blood-stained star whisper of betrayal. Why did peace end in slaughter? Join Frontier Chronicles to uncover the truth of Wounded Knee, where the cold didn't kill them, but bullets did. Hey folks, welcome to Frontier Chronicles, broadcasting from the frozen plains of Pine Ridge, South Dakota, where the wind howls with the grief of 1890. I'm Jake Harlan, and today we're stepping into a tragedy that history tried to bury under snow, the Wounded Knee Massacre, where the Lakota faced not just a brutal winter but the betrayal of a nation. In December 1890, temperatures plunged to -20 degrees Celsius, yet the Lakota's spirit burned with the ghost dance, a prayer for salvation. But when hope met rifles, the snow turned red. Was this slaughter inevitable, or was it a calculated betrayal? A hidden letter will spark questions. Let's walk into the storm. By 1890, the Lakota were a people on the edge. The 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, promising them the Black Hills, had been shattered by 15,000 gold prospectors and U.S. greed, as D. Brown details in Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. Confined to the Pine Ridge Reservation, they faced starvation, with rations cut and buffalo nearly gone, per John G. Nehart's Black Elk Speaks. Winter gripped the plains, blanketing camps in snow, with temperatures so low that breath froze in the air. Families huddled in tattered teepees, their thin blankets no match for the cold, yet they endured, as Nathaniel Philbrick notes in The Last Stand. Amid this despair, the ghost dance spread, a spiritual revival born among the Paiute, promising the return of the buffalo and the old ways, per Brown. Lakota Holy Man Kicking Bear brought it to Pine Ridge, where Chief Bigfoot's band danced in defiance, their songs echoing through the frost. The U.S. Army, stationed at Pine Ridge, grew uneasy. The ghost dance, seen as a call to rebellion, alarmed settlers and officials, per Philbrick. By December 28, 1890, 500 soldiers of the 7th Cavalry, haunted by their 1876 loss to the Lakota at Little Bighorn, surrounded Bigfoot's camp of 350, mostly women and children, near Wounded Knee Creek. They demanded the Lakota surrender their weapons, a tense order in a camp already starving and freezing, per Utley. In 1891, a trader found a crumpled letter near Pine Ridge, written by a Lakota woman, Yellow Bird, "We dance for peace, but they bring war." Buried in Army records until 1915, it hinted at betrayal. A Minneconjou elder, Singing Wolf, spoke of a vision before the massacre: the snow turned to blood under a broken star. Why did the Army fear a prayer? What did that letter conceal? Whose star fell in the cold? Hey folks, Jake Harlan back with Frontier Chronicles, broadcasting from the frozen scars of Pine Ridge, South Dakota, where the winter of 1890 holds a wound that never healed. Last time, we set the stage. The Lakota, confined to the Pine Ridge Reservation, faced a brutal -20 degrees Celsius winter, their hope kindled by the ghost dance, a prayer for the return of the old ways, as D. Brown describes in Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. Surrounded by 500 soldiers of the 7th Cavalry, Chief Bigfoot's band of 350, mostly women and children, danced in defiance, per John G. Nehart's Black Elk Speaks. Today, we walk into December 29, 1890, the day Wounded Knee became a graveyard, when a prayer for peace met a hail of bullets. A twisted order will leave you questioning. Let's face the storm. The morning of December 29 dawned bitter, the air so cold it cracked lips and numbed fingers, per Nathaniel Philbrick's The Last Stand. Bigfoot's camp, nestled along Wounded Knee Creek, was a fragile cluster of teepees, their canvas walls thin against the wind. The Lakota, starving after years of cut rations and the near extinction of buffalo, clung to the ghost dance, their songs rising like smoke, per Brown. The 7th Cavalry, still stinging from their 1876 defeat at Little Bighorn, encircled the camp under Colonel James Forsyth's command, their Hotchkiss guns gleaming on the hills. Orders came to disarm the Lakota, a demand rooted in fear of the ghost dance, seen as a prelude to rebellion, per Nehart. Bigfoot, sick with pneumonia, raised a white flag, signaling peace, but tension hung heavy. As soldiers searched the camp, a young warrior, Black Coyote, resisted handing over his rifle, claiming he'd paid for it, per Utley. A scuffle broke out, a shot rang out, accident or provocation, no one knows. Within moments, the 7th Cavalry opened fire, rifles and Hotchkiss guns tearing through the camp, killing men, women, and children, per Brown. Over 200 Lakota fell, their bodies crumpling into the snow, some fleeing only to be cut down miles away. In 1891, a trader found a torn army dispatch near Pine Ridge, dated December 28, with a scribbled note, "Disarm at all costs, any means." Uncovered in 1920, it was dismissed as routine, but its wording suggested intent, per Philbrick. A Lakota survivor, Dewey Beard, later spoke of a pre-dawn omen, "The snow whispered, blood comes." Bullets, not cold, killed them. Why did one shot ignite a massacre? What did that dispatch hide? Whose whisper foretold the slaughter? Hey folks, Jake Harlan back with Frontier Chronicles, broadcasting from the icy scars of Pine Ridge, South Dakota, where the snow still holds the sorrow of December 1890. Last time, we stood at Wounded Knee Creek on that fateful day, December 29, when the 7th Cavalry turned a Lakota prayer into a bloodbath, their rifles and Hotchkiss guns slaughtering over 200 men, women, and children, as D. Brown recounts in Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. The Ghost Dance, a plea for salvation, was drowned in gunfire, sparked by a single shot, accident or betrayal, we may never know, per John G. Nehart's Black Elk Speaks. Today, we walk through the aftermath, bodies frozen in snow, a nation's silence, and a cover-up that buried the truth. A hidden relic will spark questions, let's face the cold. The sun rose on December 30, 1890, revealing a scene of horror. Over 200 Lakota lay dead across Wounded Knee Creek, their bodies twisted in the snow, some riddled with bullets miles from the camp, per Nathaniel Philbrick's The Last Stand. The temperature, still hovering at -20°C, froze blood into crimson ice, preserving the carnage like a grim tableau. Women clutched children, their faces locked in fear, warriors, stripped of weapons, lay where they fell defending their kin, per Brown. For days, the army left the bodies unburied, claiming blizzards made it impossible, though survivors like Black Elk recalled clear skies, per Nehart. The 7th Cavalry, haunted by their 1876 loss at Little Bighorn, celebrated, some soldiers boasting of avenging Custer, per Utley. The press, fed army reports, downplayed the massacre. Eastern newspapers called it a battle, blaming hostile Lakota, ignoring the broken 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty and the starvation that drove the Ghost Dance, per Brown. In 1891, a Lakota survivor, Dewey Beard, found a child's moccasin in the snow, stained with blood and marked with a beaded star, buried near a soldier's post. Uncovered in 1925, it was labeled battle debris, but Dewey claimed it was hidden to erase the slaughter of innocents, per Philbrick. A Minneconjou elder, White Elk, spoke in 1892 of a post-massacre vision, "The snow whispered, their blood cries for justice." Army records, sealed until 1930, revealed a telegram from Colonel Forsyth, incident contained, no further inquiry needed. Why were the bodies left unburied? What did that moccasin conceal? Whose silence buried the truth? Hey folks, Jake Harlan back with Frontier Chronicles, broadcasting from the frostbitten scars of Pine Ridge, South Dakota, where the wounds of 1890 still bleed beneath the snow. Last time, we stood amid the aftermath of the Wounded Knee Massacre, where over 200 Lakota, men, women, and children, lay frozen in the -20°C cold, their bodies unburied for days as the 7th Cavalry celebrated, per D. Brown's Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. The press called it a battle, burying the truth of a slaughter sparked by fear of the Ghost Dance, per John G. Nehart's Black Elk Speaks. Today, we uncover how history whitewashed this tragedy and how the Lakota fought to reclaim their story, from reservation struggles to modern courtrooms. A carved stone circle will spark questions. Let's step into the long shadow of Wounded Knee. The massacre's ripples stretched far beyond 1890. The U.S. government, leveraging public outrage over the hostile Lakota, tightened its grip on native lands, ignoring the broken 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty that had promised the Black Hills, now overrun by 15,000 prospectors, per Nathaniel Philbrick's The Last Stand. By 1891, most Lakota were confined to reservations, their culture targeted by boarding schools like Carlisle, where children were stripped of their names and language, per Brown. Eastern newspapers, fed Army narratives, framed Wounded Knee as a necessary clash, with headlines praising the 7th Cavalry's victory, per Nehart. Official reports, like Colonel Forsyth's, claimed the Lakota fired first, a lie unchallenged until survivors' accounts emerged decades later, per Philbrick. This whitewashing erased the slaughter of unarmed dancers, cementing a narrative of progress over savagery. Yet, the Lakota never surrendered their truth. Survivors like Black Elk shared stories of the massacre, their voices preserved in oral traditions and later writings, per Nehart. By the 1970s, the American Indian Movement, AIM, occupied Wounded Knee, demanding justice for 1890 and treaty violations, per Brown. In 2025, Lakota descendants sue for the return of the Black Hills, citing the 1868 treaty, their legal battles echoing the defiance of Bigfoot's band, per recent filings. In 1892, a trader found a stone circle near Wounded Knee Creek, etched with "Blood Cries Forever." A Minneconjou elder, singing wolf, claimed it sealed a vow, "The hills will speak until justice rises," per Nehart. In 1893, a soldier's journal, uncovered in 1935, admitted, "We shot them praying." Why was the truth buried? What does that stone circle guard? Whose vow still echoes? Hey folks, Jake Harlan here, closing out our solemn journey with Frontier Chronicles from the frozen plains of Pine Ridge, South Dakota, where the snow still whispers of 1890's tragedy. We've walked through the Wounded Knee Massacre, where over 200 Lakota fell to the 7th Cavalry's bullets, their prayers for peace silenced in a -20°C winter, as D. Brown recounts in Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. We've seen the cover-up, the battle label plastered over a slaughter, and the Lakota's fight to reclaim their story, per John G. Nehart's Black Elk Speaks. Today, we weave these threads into a final reflection. Wounded Knee isn't just a scar, it's a cry for justice that echoes today. A lingering prophecy will haunt you, let's face the unburied truth. Wounded Knee was no accident. The massacre, sparked by fear of the ghost dance and rooted in the broken 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, was a brutal climax to America's campaign to erase native sovereignty, per Nathaniel Philbrick's The Last Stand. Over 200 bodies, women clutching children, elders, and warriors, froze in the snow, left unburied for days, a grim testament to the 7th Cavalry's vengeance for their 1876 loss at Little Bighorn, per Brown. The government's narrative, painting the Lakota as aggressors, justified stripping their lands for railroads and settlers, per Nehart. Yet, the Lakota's spirit endured. The 1973 AIM occupation of Wounded Knee and 2025 lawsuits for the Black Hills show their defiance, rooted in the same hope that fueled Bigfoot's dance, per recent filings. This tragedy's legacy is a mirror. It forces us to ask, who writes history? The victor's pens called Wounded Knee a necessity, but survivors like Black Elk told of prayers cut short by bullets, per Nehart. In 1893, a trader found a Lakota prayer stick near Wounded Knee Creek, carved with "The Stars Weep." A Minneconjou elder, singing wolf, claimed it sealed a prophecy, "The snow will melt, but our blood will speak," per Brown. In 1895, a soldier's letter, uncovered in 1940, confessed, "We killed them as they sang." These relics defy the whitewash, demanding we see the truth. The Lakota didn't die from cold or hunger, they died from betrayal. Their story lives in songs, protests, and the wind over Pine Ridge. What is Wounded Knee's lesson? What does that prophecy foretell? Whose truth will prevail? Snow may cover the ground, but it cannot hide the cruelty history tried to erase. Drop your thoughts below, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell for more Frontier Chronicles.